Imagine you're learning something tough. Let's say a new language, or maybe some really advanced math. Now, what if your teacher could know, like in real time, just by reading your brain activity, the exact moment you start to get overwhelmed? And then, bam, they could instantly change the lesson to get you back on track. It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? Well, it's actually a lot closer than you might think.
You know that feeling. We've all been there. You're trying so hard to cram new information into your head, and then suddenly, you just hit a wall. It literally feels like nothing else can fit inside. Your focus is gone, and you just start getting frustrated. Well, that feeling of being totally mentally maxed out, that is the exact problem that a whole new wave of technology is trying to solve.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First up, we're going to talk about the science behind why our brains get full in the first place. Then, we'll get into the AI tutor that's designed to fix it. We'll explore what it's like learning on autopilot, tackle some of the huge questions this tech brings up, and finally, look at how this could completely redefine the classroom of the future.
So to kick things off, we really need to get our heads around a key idea from educational science, one that explains the very real limits of our own minds.
It all comes down to this thing called cognitive load theory. And the idea is actually super simple. Think of your working memory, the part of your brain that's juggling all the info right now, as having a limited internet connection. It only has so much bandwidth. If a lesson tries to download way too much data all at once, your connection just freezes up. Learning grinds to a halt. The goal is to cut down on the useless stuff, like confusing instructions, to make more room for the good stuff, the actual deep learning. And listen, this isn't just some fringe theory. The source material for this whole explainer is a massive review that pulled together and analyzed 103 different scientific papers on this exact topic. So yeah, we're talking about a really deep and solid body of research here.
So if a maxed out brain is the problem, then what's the solution? Well, this is where it gets really cool. This is where two massive fields, neuroscience and AI, team up to create something brand new, the neuroadaptive AI tutor.
So how is this any different from a regular human tutor? Well, a great teacher is always looking for clues, right? A confused look, a wrong answer, and they try to adjust. But at the end of the day, it's still an educated guess. This AI tutor, it doesn't guess. It uses real-time biological data to know your cognitive state directly. It adopts the lesson, not based on how you're performing, but on your brain's actual workload. And the best part? Unlike a private human tutor, this could eventually be available to everyone. It might sound super complicated, but it really just boils down to a simple three-step loop. First, it measures. You've got sensors, maybe an EEG cap, measuring your brain's electrical signals, or something called FNRs, which uses light to track blood flow. Second, it analyzes. An AI crunches all that data to figure out if your brain is relaxed, in the zone, or totally overloaded. And third, it adapts. The system instantly makes the lesson easier or harder based on what your brain needs. It's this constant, real-time conversation between your brain and the computer.
So, when you put this all together, what does it actually feel like to learn this way? I mean, what's the real promise here?
The potential is frankly huge. This system basically manages your cognitive load for you, keeping you in that perfect flow state where learning feels almost effortless. What that means is every single student, from a kid in elementary school to an adult learning a new skill, gets a lesson that is truly 100% personalized, and it adapts from one moment to the next. This isn't just about getting more answers right. It's about making the entire learning process way more effective and way more efficient.
But here's the thing. Just measuring brain waves can sometimes be, well, a little noisy and messy. So the researchers thought, how can we make this system even more accurate and reliable? And the answer was to look at more than just the brain. The solution is what they call a multimodal system. So check this out. If you only use brain data from an EEG, you get a decent level of accuracy. But the system gets a whole lot smarter when you start adding in other signals from the body, like your heart rate from an ECG, or even tiny changes in your sweat levels. By looking at the brain and the body together, the AI gets a much clearer picture of what's going on in your head, making that AI tutor that much more effective.
Okay, this all sounds absolutely incredible, right? A perfect, personalized tutor that knows exactly what you need. But before we get too carried away, we have to pump the brakes and talk about some of the really significant challenges we have to face.
And this is where we get into some huge questions that the researchers themselves are really wrestling with. Like, who owns your brain data? How do we make sure it's not being sold or used against you? What about bias? How do we ensure an AI that's trained on one group of people works fairly for students from different backgrounds or with learning differences?
And then there's the cost. I mean, how do we stop this from just becoming another tool for the rich that makes the education gap even wider? These are serious, real-world problems that absolutely have to be solved.
But, despite all of those very real challenges, the research points towards a really powerful and honestly optimistic vision for the future of education, one where technology serves a deeply human purpose. And this quote from the study's conclusion just says it all, really. The ultimate goal here isn't just to build smarter technology. It's to build systems that are inclusive, that are fair, and that work for every single learner no matter who they are or where they come from. It's about using AI to unlock human potential, not just to crunch data.
Which brings us right to the final, critical question. We've seen the incredible potential, and we've seen the serious risks. This technology is coming, one way or another. So we have to ask ourselves, when it gets here, would you be willing to put your child's education into the hands of an AI that can literally read their mind? That's something we're all going to have to think about.